Welcome to Real Food, and today, as you can see, I'm trying to improve my skills in preparing artichokes, and there is something interesting about them. I did try cooking them not many, a few times in the past, and I always felt like I either did something wrong or it just wasn't possible to actually do it without huge effort. Because it would come out really hard and very difficult to eat. And I was always wondering, so how come you buy it in a jar and it's very delicious, it's very soft, it's not, rubbery or chewy, and it's just so beautiful and wonderful. And here we are, when I try to do something with it, or boil or do anything, it just becomes really difficult. But I was actually not doing it right. And artichokes, they are gorgeous, they're really beautiful. I in fact started growing them myself in my small urban garden in my balcony in London. I'm actually growing artichokes, and so one of them started blooming. So there's gorgeous bloom that comes out from the top if you allow them to bloom, and it's usually purple or beautiful blue color. And they're absolutely amazing. But also, that bloom, and underneath that bloom, there are also fibers, hairy fibers, which are not actually edible. You do need to remove them. That's one thing to remember. But another thing to remember, there are, I don't know if you can see here, but there are very spiky bits of the petals. And these spiky bits also need to be removed. But it gets even more complicated. I thought you could actually eat all of these green leaves on the outside, and you can, but not all of it. So you can only eat certain parts of it. So this gorgeous artichoke is a tricky one to prepare, but today I'm going to try and get it right this time. And the first thing to do in preparation is to take care of this stem. Oh, these are really hard. You can't really quite take them off easily. You can see it's started to oxidize here, but you don't want to remove all of it, because later you can see it's still fresh and lovely. But you want just over an inch, because it does get hard and very difficult to handle. Then I think these elements also need to be. So I'm going to use this potato peeler, which is going to do the job. Look, it removes the very hard layer of this skin here, and just allows you to keep the very best. And this will be the edible bit. So this you can actually eat. So what we do with the actual head is, there is a technique. You basically see at the top, there's so many leaves and so many spikes here, they're very spiky. You really don't want to eat this. So you cut this off, like this. So you basically cover all of those spikes. Check this out. So all these spikes are gone, but there are still some left. And with these, you would use your kitchen scissor to cut remaining spikes off, because even when they are a little softer later, you really don't want to bruise your lips or your tongue or anything like this. So it's a good idea to cut them off. You might even feel like, oh, these spikes are okay, I can handle it. But you know what? They can get your delicate skin around your mouth, your lips and tongue bruised. So, and this is what I've seen in all other recommendations. I did some research and I found that this is what you do. It's a little fiddly, but it's not too fiddly. And you know what? So I've cut all these off now. These you could just remove, because these leaves are very hard. Even after cooking, they're not going to get any better. And it's actually the base and the heart of the artichoke that's the most delicious, and something that's going to give you the best culinary experience and taste. So these can be removed, And I think we're now close to having this artichoke ready for boiling. So at this stage, this artichoke would actually go into boiling. I might actually cut some more. Okay, well, that's the preparation. So it didn't take that long, but I might do the second one as well, to practice and also to refresh. So you see, there's lots of and underneath all of this, inside, there will be the heart, the most delicious bit. So, and I think this will fit into I think I can fit 2 into my boiling pan. Yeah, so I think that's what I'm going to do. So I've got the second one, and this is what you do with the stem. And then I would use a potato peeler or vegetable peeler like this to remove the hard outer layer, like this, so the outer layer becomes more interesting and ready. So I will remove a little more. So yeah, there's still some oxidation there already. So here we are. So then you cut off these areas with most spikes. So this area will have a lot of spiky bits, which are not very good for eating. So this gets cut off. It can be quite difficult, but here we are. So that's gone. Then additionally, you remove the spikes from other leaves that are still remaining with your kitchen scissors, because these spikes again aren't very good if you try to eat them. So here we are, and the outer very hard leaves, you can just remove them with your hands. So it does take a short while, but not huge amount of time. And you see, in the past, I didn't do any of these prep work. I would try to boil it as is, and then I was surprised why it's still very hard and not very pleasant. So, but there are ways of doing this, right? So here we are. So I'm just going to remove the ones that are quite tough and hard. So, and here we are. I think this one is now ready for boiling. So I've got 2. So both of these will now be boiled. Look at this. They look great. And then there's a bit more preparation after boiling, because inside, where the blooms are, there will be a section with full of fibers and hair. So that hairy fiber, you don't want to eat it, because it can be quite irritating. So you remove that element as well, but that's after boiling. So this is now ready for boiling. So here we are. My 2 artichokes fit perfectly in my pan, but there's another thing that was recommended, and this is to prevent your artichoke browning too much. You squeeze some lemon juice, and I've got lemon and a lime here, and you use that as an agent that stops excessive browning. And because I have a small lemon, I've also got a lime here. So you add this, and in fact I've also seen other presenters then dropping this section of a lemon inside, because I guess it can also give some flavor, and I'm going to do the same. So I'm going to squeeze the lemon juice, and because I've got a lime as well, so I'm going to do the same with lime, and I'm going to keep 1 segment of lime inside and 1 segment of lemon. So here we are. So you use this to aid also in softening and breaking down the fibers, because artichoke fibers, all those petals, green leaves, and they're really hard. They're almost like wood. They've got woody texture. They're very strong. So I think this is now ready for steaming or boiling. So I'm going to steam and steam or boil. I mean, it's going to be a combination of the 2. So here we are. So my artichokes are now going to be boiled, and you do need to give it, well, from what I've seen, it takes between 20 to 30 minutes or so. You can check it occasionally to see how soft the leaves are, but that seems to be the consensus, because if you don't give it sufficient time, it will still be quite difficult to chew. It will be very strong and chewy, so it does require some time. But stay with me. After this, there's a few more steps to go through, and there's also a very interesting way of presenting your artichokes, and there's interesting dips you could use to eat your artichokes. So there's a few more interesting things that you'll discover later on. Okay, here are my artichokes. I think they've been steaming and boiling for about 20 minutes. As you can see, they remain beautiful olive green color, and I suspect this is because of my lemons and limes there, because they could easily go brown, very brown. But it's fantastic that they retain this gorgeous green color. So I think they need another 5-10 minutes. They already look quite pleasant and quite soft. I mean, what you can do, you can try and check. I know the stems. These are, oh my god, these are gorgeous. They're already soft, and in fact, yeah, they feel very tender. Maybe not as tender as those you find in a jar in olive oil, but they are pretty much. You see how easily the stem gets penetrated. So I'll just touch this. Yeah, they're already soft. So I'll give them another 5 minutes, and then we'll move on to our next preparation stage. Okay, so I've cooked my artichokes for about 20 minutes or half an hour, and they are tender and beautiful and lovely. And what I've done, I've cut one in half, and we're now ready for the next stage of preparation, something that's quite important to do. So if you can see this small section here, this section contains all those fibers that turn into spikes and into a quite, well, basically this part in the artichoke is called the choke. So if you eat this, you might actually choke. So, and you don't want to eat it because these are the spiky and fibrous elements. So to remove this, you could use a knife and gently make an incision here, and then you could use a spoon to spoon these things out nicely. So you can see all these fibers, which will turn into flowery spikes and also into seeds later on. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to remove this into this container. So this is an important stage here. You don't want to damage the heart, because the heart of your artichoke is the most important element and the most edible part. So there's some more left in here. If I had to describe the smell, you know, when these artichokes were boiling, the scent that was coming out of them is actually quite unique and absolutely delicious. It's unlike any other type of food that you can still smell a little bit of that bloom. Yes, it's a very interesting smell. It's a nice savory smell, and a little bit of what you get from a jar in olive oil with artichokes. So this artichoke is now getting close to the point where it could be served. So I'll just remove all those remaining bits. So and this is what we have here. So the heart, this is the heart, is the most delicious and tender and edible part. But these leaves, you can also eat them, and I will show you how you eat them with a delicious dip. So I'll just try. The leaves are fantastic. In fact, they're not as hard as I imagined they would be. They are actually edible on their own. But the outer leaves, for example, you don't eat. I'll show you briefly. You don't eat the whole of this leaf. You eat the meat. This small section here is called the leaf, and you can dip it in a dip. And then chew off that edible bit. I suppose you could also chew the remaining part, but it's a very hard, it's still quite hard and fibrous part of it. And from what I've seen, these very, very hard leaves, you don't really eat them. So I will do the same with this half of my artichoke, and then another one, and then I'll show you a very interesting way of presenting and laying your artichokes. So here we are. I was going to show you the final stages of how to prepare, how to lay your artichokes. So what happens with these segments, this is your ready artichoke. I've removed the actual choke bit. So this is the edible bit, and this heart is the most tender and delicious part of it. But what you can do with the leaves, so what you basically do, you take one leaf out at a time, or all of them, and then what you use, you can eat this part of the leaf. It's very tender and beautiful, and you can use it as basically you dip it in somewhere in a dip, and then you take this part off with your dip, and this is how you eat it. You can lay these segments on a plate, or just use whole artichoke and use them as your organic spoon. And you know what? This is the first time I'm actually tasting the very, very fresh artichoke, freshly cooked, and I have to say, it's absolutely amazing. It's a different experience to those artichokes that you eat from a jar in olive oil. But that's also another. From here, you can also grill your artichokes in olive oil, and then they'll come close to what you get in the jar. But I just think this is a much nicer, more interesting way to eat them. So you peel your heart like this with these segments, one by one, and then you just have this heart. I can show you how it works. So here we are. So here's the heart, and this is the most delicious. You can eat all of it practically, with maybe a few of these little bits here. But I'm going to just take my time and use these leaves with my dip. And I might try to grill some of them actually in olive oil to see what it tastes like. But that's about it. That's all you need to know, really. And I hope you can try. It does sound like there's a lot of work to do, but really, I've done it all very, very quickly. And this I actually was doing for the very first time. I did some research, I did some reading, but they're not that difficult actually. I think meat and fish is much more complicated than this. So if you watched this video and you liked, I can guarantee the taste is 100 times more interesting and delicious than watching this whole thing. So nevertheless, I hope you liked it. Do share your own interesting recipes and new foods you're discovering. I do like reading all the comments. And let me wish you bon appetit, and we'll chat again soon.